In the last section, we created our first action creator. Action creators are functions that return actions, and actions are objects that have a type property defined to them. Actions are used to tell our reducers to update in a very specific fashion. So the very specific action that we created should be informing our reducer that we intend to select a new book. So that's the goal here. So we've got our action creator at this point in time, but we need to figure out how to call it properly. So here's the process for calling an action creator. First, we determine where we want to call this action creator from. Well, chances are we want to call the action creator from the list item component. Whenever a user taps on this card section right here is when we want to call that action creator and say, hey, we need to select or update the currently selected library. Now, I wish I could say that calling an action creator was as simple as importing it and just calling it inside this component right here, but it's not quite that easy. Here's the thing. The action creator that we just made is a plain JavaScript function, right? And it just returns a plain object. So the overriding theme with Redux here, beyond the fact that, really confusing terminology, is that it is not magic. There's no magic whatsoever. Just calling an action creator, like, if I just called this function and saw this object return, nothing will automatically happen. Like Redux does not magically say, oh, you just called a function from the actions file. Well, let me take that action and do something with it. No, that's not how it works. We have to make sure that the action and this action creator are specifically wired up to Redux. So again, general rule of thumb, remember that for every part of a Redux application that we build, from the components to the actions to the reducers, they all have to be wired up at some point. So here's how we wire up our action creators inside of an application. This is a 100% reproducible process. So we're going to do it once now, and then we will do it again and again and again and again in the exact same fashion. First, I'm going to go to the file that I want to call the action creator from. So inside the list item, I want to be able to call that action creator so I can update the currently selected library. Then at the top, I'm going to import all of my action creators from that actions index file. So I'm currently inside of my list item file, so I need to go up one directory and then access the actions folder. Because the actions folder has an index file inside of it, I'm just going to import the actions folder, and of course that will automatically give me the index file. Now I'm going to do one really weird thing here. I'm going to say import star as actions from up one directory, so ... notice the ... there, / actions, like so. Okay, so already one weird thing here, one weird thing. Star as actions, what in the world is that? Well, here's what's going on. Inside of my actions file, I might have many different action creators, right? I might have many different action creators, and I might want to use them all over the place in different components for different things. Whenever I export many things from a single file, as I might do here, I use just the export keyword. I do not use export default. So again, if I want to export many things, I just use the export keyword. Whenever I want to import many things from a file at one time and just get access to like the whole lot of them, right? I can say star as and then some variable right here. So star as actions means give me everything that was exported from the actions file and assign it to the variable actions. I could have done the same exact thing with the React Native import right here as well. I could have said, something like star as components and gotten access to like the text tag, the view tag, the text input, all those different primitive tags that are provided by React Native. But in React Native's case, I just wanted the text tag. In the actions case, I wanted all of my available action creators. Okay, so quick aside there. So that's step one for calling an action creator. Step two is to import the connect helper from React Redux. So up here, I will import connect from React Redux. Remember, connect is our kind of like window to the whole world of Redux from the React side of things. We used it previously to get access to our application state, but we can also use the connect helper to call an action creator. Finally, we will set up that connect helper at the bottom of our file again. So here's my export default statement. I will add in the connect helper with one set of parentheses, and then wrap the list item with a second set. Now, when we last used the connect helper, we passed the function map state to props as the first argument. That is the purpose of the first argument to connect right here. Like the first argument must be the map state to props function. The purpose of the second argument, however, is to bind action creators to this component. Now, because we do not have any map state to props that we want to pass to this, I'm going to pass in null as the first argument. Again, the first argument is explicitly for map state to props. So if I don't want to map state to props, I have to pass in null here. Then as the second argument, I will pass in my entire actions object. This says, take these action creators, whatever's in here, in this case we only have one right now, and make sure that whenever they are called, the actions go to the right place, and then pass these actions down into the component as props. So this right here is doing two things. First off, it is turning, it's kind of like mutating this action creator right here from a kind of dumb function that just returns a action, just like a silly object, doesn't really do anything with it. It mutates this function into something special where whenever it is called, it will be the returned action will be automatically dispatched to the Redux store, which is exactly what we want. The second thing that it does is it takes all of the actions that are inside this object, which again in our case we have just one, and it passes them all to our component as props. Okay, so very common theme that you might see arising here. Whenever we use the connect helper, it is modifying what data is going to show up to our list item as props. So just to make sure that's the case, I'm going to add a console log statement inside of my component, and I'm going to console log props. And I don't know why this error message keeps on popping up there. Anyways, so I've got a console log here. I'm just going to console log my props object. Let's now flip over to my console here. I will also open my simulator. Let's do a refresh. And very interestingly, you will notice that because my component is rendered 9 times here, I get 9 separate console logs. And if I expand any of these, you'll see that my props object now has an argument called select library. So this is my action creator right here. I can now call this action creator. I can pass in the ID of the library that I want to select. That will generate an action. So here's my select library action right here. It will generate this action and it will automatically dispatch it to all the different reducers in my application. So in practice, when we had previously worked with Redux and we called store.dispatch ourselves, in practice, we do not have to call dispatch ourselves from our components. We use this kind of automatic binding with the connect helper to do it for us. Okay, so at this point in time, we've now got access to our action creator select library inside of our component. All we have to do is call it with the very particular library's ID that we want to select. There's just one little problem here. We don't yet have anything to receive a touch event. Okay, like nothing to receive a press event like we did previously with a button. Remember, only touchable components can receive tap events. So we're going to need to import one into this component to receive a tap event. Let's take care of that in the next section and then do a big review on how all these action creators work.